Hello and welcome to BYJU'S IAS. Let's get started with the analysis of today's The Hindu newspaper. It's going to be a very short discussion today, not many newspaper articles relevant for your exam. But beginning with an important news on page number 1, which is relevant for your GS paper 2, which talks about international relations. There was some sort of a trade war going on between United States and China. United States was imposing tariffs on the Chinese goods. China, on the other hand, retaliated and imposed tariffs on the US goods. And this had the potential of destabilizing the world economy. Now, the leaders of both the countries met and they decided that we should hold off fresh tariffs for the next 90 days. That means all the tariffs that both the sides had imposed on each other's goods, they will continue, but fresh tariffs will not be imposed for the next 90 days. United States had threatened to increase the tariff to 25% on all Chinese goods. But now what United States has said that we are going to keep the rate of these tariffs at 10%. Donald Trump says that Beijing has agreed to buy a significant proportion of American farm products. But what is going to be the magnitude of these exports to China, we still do not know. But this is a very welcome development, and through this development we can expect that the full-blown trade war between United States and China, which everybody thought was coming, will now be put to an end. There won't be any fresh escalation in confrontation between the United States and China, because ultimately it is not going to help the world economy. Let's look at a news item on page number 7 relevant for your prelims. Train 18, which is India's first engine-less train, which has been designed, conceptualized and manufactured wholly in India. Its trial run was conducted, and in this trial run it has touched the speed of 180 kilometers per hour. Experts say that this train has the potential of touching 200 kilometers per hour. The approximate cost of a train is 100 crore, and once the trial run is fully complete, this train 18 is going to replace the Shatabdi Express, possibly in January 2019. But there are some important features of this train 18 that can be a potential question for your prelims examination. For example, these trains have automatic doors with retractable footsteps, and these doors can also help disabled people. There is an onboard Wi-Fi and infotainment facility. There is a GPS-based passenger information system. There are modular toilets with bio-vacuum systems. These are very important features and facilities that will be on board this train 18, and you have to understand that it is India's first engine-less electric train that is going to replace the Shatabdi Express. Now let us look at some of the editorials and columns from today's newspaper, beginning with Sing Like an Urban Naxal, written by Shiv Vishwanathan. Now, who is an urban Naxal? This is a term that is used against all those individuals who are against the current government, who are against the current establishment. There was a book released by Vivek Agnihotri, who is a Bollywood film director, called An Urban Naxal. And now everybody and anybody who disagrees with the current government is given this term of an urban Naxal. So Shiv Vishwanathan says that previously all those who disagreed with the government, they were called pseudo-secular. Now this term, pseudo-secular, has been replaced by a much fancier term called an urban Naxal. Naxals are basically fighting a war against India, against the Indian state. But now this urban Naxal is used to define all those individuals who may not be Naxals or Maoist, but all those so-called anti-national elements who are against the nation, who wants to break the nation, and who are against the current government. But who are these urban Naxals? Basically, some academicians, writers, activists, human rights activists, columnists, singers, filmmakers, who are supporting these anti-national elements, whether through diplomatic support or moral support or by writing columns or books or sometimes through funding as well, through money as well. All those individuals who are living in the urban areas and who support these Naxals, who support these Maoists, who support these anti-national elements, they have been given this term of an urban Naxal. For example, Ramachandra Guha, one of India's foremost historian, he had to start teaching at Ahmedabad University. Some right-wing student organizations protested that Ramachandra Guha should not be allowed to teach at Ahmedabad University because he is also an urban Naxal. And ultimately Ramachandra Guha had to back out and he decided not to teach at Ahmedabad University. Recently also we saw T.M. Krishna, who is a Carnatic vocalist. He had decided to participate at a function which was to be organized by Airport Authority of India, but suddenly Airport Authority of India withdrew its invitation to T.M. Krishna because many people alleged that T.M. Krishna is also an urban Naxal. So what this column basically talks about is that who is an urban Naxal? Shiv Vishwanathan says an urban Naxal is somebody who seeks to liberate language, who seeks to speak for democracy. And this urban Naxal who tries to question the status quo, who tries to question the government, who tries to question all those individuals who are talking about divisiveness, who want to polarize the society. So we need more of these urban Naxals who can speak for the disempowered sections of the society, disprivileged sections of the society, those people who do not have a voice. To provide voice for these voiceless, we need these urban Naxals. So urban Naxal is going to be the citizen of the future. That is what this column is basically all about. Now let us look at another column on page number 9. Disability is not a defining feature. And this column is relevant for your GS paper 1, which talks about the society of India. Now whatever is happening in the society, that is displayed on the television screens, that is displayed in the movies. So basically movies show mirror to the society. Movies are reflections of the society. And there was a time when people with disability would feature in the Indian movies, but these individuals would feature in the Indian movies as a source of laughter, they would be laughed at, or as a source of pity. So if you have to generate sympathy for a particular character in a movie, you would make that character a disabled one. For example, Thakur in iconic movie Sholay, both his arms were cut by Gabbar Singh. So to have an element of sympathy for Thakur played by legendary Sanjeev Kumar, this character was given a disabled character or a disabled shape. So these disability affected individuals were primarily included in the movies as a source of laughter, as a source of pity. But over a period of time, Bollywood has undergone a change. Now we have seen more and more disability themed movies. For example, Guzarish by Hrithik Roshan. Similarly, Tare Zameen Par of Amir Khan. Similarly, we have seen Margarita with a Straw performed brilliantly by Kalki Koechlin. We have seen that Bollywood has come of age where the theme for a particular movie is centering around disability. And we don't look at disability through the prism of laughter or through the prism of pity. And more awareness is created out of these movies about the disabilities that people suffer from. For example, dyslexia, which was the central theme in Tare Zameen Par. This movie, when it was made, ultimately people started becoming more and more aware about dyslexia, and they treated dyslexia as something that should not be laughed at or pitied at, but as something which is normal and can be remedied as well. Similarly, now we have seen that a new movie is going to release, Zero, starring Bollywood megastar Shah Rukh Khan. There are people who have criticized this movie, saying that if Shah Rukh Khan is playing the role of a dwarf, this role should have been played by an actual dwarf. But what Nipun Malhotra basically talks about, he says that it is very important that we use Bollywood megastars, superstars, so that they can draw audience to the theaters and then through these audiences, awareness is created about dyslexia, awareness is created about disabilities, awareness is created about cerebral palsy, through which Anushka Sharma, who is playing a very important role in this movie Zero, is suffering from. So this criticism at this movie Zero is an unnecessary criticism and should be discounted on all fronts. Because movies, after all, have played a very important role in shaping the minds of the people. Let's not forget, when Rang De Basanti, a multi-starrer featuring Amir Khan, was released, it created some sort of mini revolution in India. So this is what this column is all about. Now let us look at another important column on page number 9 of the Delhi edition of the Hindu. It talks about the Zika virus. Now Zika virus is something that we have discussed at least twice in the past. There was an outbreak of Zika virus in Rajasthan as well as in Madhya Pradesh. This column basically talks about that the data surrounding the Zika virus should have been shared so that the countries as well as India could have been in a position to better tackle the outbreaks. How? For example, two sets of data were not shared. Number one, this column says how many daily cases or day-wise number of infections were reported, we do not know. Number two, Indian Council for Medical Research. What it did, it genetically sequenced the Zika virus from 5 patients in Rajasthan. But it wasn't published in something called GenBank. What is this GenBank? It's basically a database, but this database has an open access. But what does this GenBank contain? This GenBank contains nucleotide sequences. It also contains the protein translations of these nucleotide sequences. But where are these nucleotide sequences received from? This GenBank receives these nucleotide sequences from experts throughout the world. And this GenBank plays a very, very important role for research purposes. So that by analyzing the data, possible mechanisms can be created to tackle the outbreaks in a better manner. But how does this daily count and this genetic sequences of virus, how does it help? How is it extremely useful? For example, if daily count of Zika virus incidents or infections would have been reported, it could have given us an understanding of where the virus came to India and for how long it has been circulating in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. Because if we know this, there was a talk few months ago that all those people who have been detected with Zika virus, they have never traveled abroad. And if they have never traveled abroad, where did they get this infection from? So if we would have got these genetic sequences, if we would have got the daily number of these infections, we would have been in a better position to understand what is the source of the Zika virus. Similarly, if we use the data from our previous epidemics, scientists have been in a position to estimate the rate at which Zika virus mutates. So by comparing genome sequences from multiple patients, scientists can estimate when these viruses diverged from their recent common ancestor, when these viruses entered into India. And this means that we could have been in a better position to customize our response to this Zika outbreak. That is why it is very important in such scenarios that we should publish these genetic sequences in an open access database so that a unified or a customized outbreak response is created. But then there are researchers who are very reluctant to share these genome sequences, to publish these genome sequences in an open database. Why? For example, when Ebola outbreak took place, some of the scientists worked very hard and ultimately gathered these sequences and published these sequences in this database. Now there were other scientists, what they did, they utilized these sequences of this database, analyzed them and published their own reports. When they published their own reports, those who use these sequences or who publish these sequences, they were not given the credit. That is why World Health Organization has said that it is very important to address this problem. What is it that we have to address? For example, I am the researcher. I have genetically sequenced a virus and I have published this genetic sequence in a database. And if someone else, for example you are analyzing my genetic sequence and you are publishing a report, you should give credit to me as well, because it was based on my understanding, it was based on my hard work that you have been in a position to better analyze a particular outbreak. This is something that WHO should work upon addressing, and this is what this column is all about. Now let's look at another column on page number 8 written by Feroz Varun Gandhi, who is a member of parliament in Lok Sabha. Job creation at the farmer's doorstep. Varun Gandhi has also written a very beautiful book called A Rural Manifesto, which has been published by Rupa Publication. It's a very, very important book, and once we are done with analyzing this book, then hopefully we can make a detailed video lecture of what this book, Rural Manifesto, is all about, because it's going to give you some of the very important insights which you can use in your answer writing when farmer related questions are asked in the examination. What this column basically talks about: Telangana government launched a Raitu Bandhu scheme, which is basically a welfare program to support farmers. Every farmer will be given 4,000 rupees per acre, and that too twice a year. This is India's first direct cash transfer scheme for farmers, where cash is paid directly to the farmer. And this is the scheme that KCR, the interim or the caretaker chief minister of Telangana, is hoping that he will win elections on. But what Varun Gandhi talks about, Varun Gandhi says that according to NABARD, NABARD released a survey called All India Rural Financial Inclusion Survey. It says that the average monthly income of rural households is 8,059. So if it's a rural household, the average income is 8,059, average monthly income. But in these rural households, we have agricultural households as well. We have non-agricultural households as well. If we take into account agricultural households, only 43%, that means these agricultural households, they get 43% of their monthly revenue or monthly income from agriculture. Where do they get the remaining income from? By working as daily wage laborers, by working in the construction industry, by working in government jobs. So the real agricultural contribution to the monthly income of an agricultural rural household is only 43%. The remaining income, rural agricultural households, they get from non-agricultural sector. Varun Gandhi says that the government has decided that we will double the farmers' income. But how will we double the farmers' income? By raising the minimum support prices. But such initiatives to double the farmers' income is going to help only these agricultural rural households. What about non-agricultural rural households? This is what Varun Gandhi talks about. Varun Gandhi says that we will have to have diversification. That means we should diversify. And there are two options for that. One, opportunity in livestock. Buffalo breeding should be given more attention. Poultry breeding should be given more attention. Artificial insemination should be given more attention. Animal health should be given a priority. There should be more investment in preventive health care. And state governments, what they should do, they should sponsor more research and assessment so that opportunity in livestock can be multiplied. And if opportunity in livestock is multiplied, it is going to affect and drastically improve the non-agricultural income of these rural households. The second thing that Varun Gandhi talks about is that we should focus on migrant workers. For example, there are rural people who migrate to urban areas in search of jobs. And majority of these people, since they are not well read, well educated, literate, they end up as migrant workers. They end up as seasonal agricultural workers. For example, for seasonal crops in Punjab, Haryana, they are used as workers. But mostly these workers end up in the construction industry. And this is where their rights are violated. This is where they have been discriminated. So we should focus on the migrant workers, so that if these migrant workers are paid their dues in the urban areas, they are going to send some part of this money back to their rural home, and ultimately it is going to have a beautiful impact on the incomes of the rural households. That is what Feroz Varun Gandhi talks about in this article. Let us look at some of the prelims based questions. From today's paper, since G20 summit is going to be held in India in 2022, what is G20? It's a group of 20 countries plus EU. No, it's a group of 19 countries plus EU. It was founded in 1989. It was founded in 1999. Argentina and Brazil, they are the only South American countries who are part of G20. This statement is correct. So which of the following statements regarding G20 are correct? Only three. Map-based question. Which of the following EU countries border Ukraine? All these are EU countries. But Portugal is something which is not bordering Ukraine. Ukraine is in the news because of the crisis between Ukraine and Russia. So the correct answer is 1, 2, 3 and 4. Let's look at the map. So if this Ukraine, there is Poland, there is Slovakia, there is Hungary, there is Romania. And these are the 4 European Union countries which are bordering Ukraine. Let's look at previous year's question paper. Under the Constitution, which of the following is not a fundamental duty? To vote in public elections is not a fundamental duty. Let's look at a mains-based question, answer writing practice. Comment on the causes of the revolt of 1857 in 150 words. A massive revolt broke out in northern and central India and nearly swept away the British rule. This question talks about what were the causes of the revolt of 1857. So it does not talk about what was the immediate cause. Immediate cause, you would know, were the introduction of Enfield rifles, where if you had to put the cartridge into this Enfield rifle, you had to bit it first. And this grease was made up of pig fat as well as cow fat. And since cow is sacred to Hindus, pig fat is loathed by the Muslims. So the Indian soldiers of East India Company, they revolted against the British in this revolt of 1857 because they thought that British or East India Company is insensitive towards their religious identities, towards their religious feelings. But that was the immediate cause. What were the other causes of the revolt of 1857? The first is the economic exploitation by the British. For example, the land revenue systems of the British exploited the Indian farmer. The economic exploitation of the Indian handicrafts led to a situation where cotton was imported from the Britain, from the Europe, and Indian artisans, Indian craftsmen, Indian handicraftsmen, ultimately they were led to impoverish. The other reason was the very nature or the very foreignness of the British. Because these British were perennially foreign. If we look at the earlier rulers who came from outside, they mingled with the Indian population and they became one with them. But these British, they remained perpetual foreigners in India. That was the other reason why revolt of 1857 broke out. The third cause was religious leaders. If we look at Mughals or Indian rulers prior to that, they were the connoisseurs of art. They were the supporters of art. And in their darbars, they would support the poets, they would support the musicians, they would support the religious leaders. But when these Indian rulers were replaced by the British, suddenly the patronage provided to these religious leaders, it evaporated. And these religious leaders played a very important role in inciting people against the British rule. So that was another reason. Fourth reason was attack on religious freedoms or attack on the religion. The British made frequent cheap remarks about the Indian religions. They would support the Christian missionaries, and people realized very soon that it is going to be the policy of the British East India Company that they want to convert Indians into Christianity. That was another reason for the revolt of 1857. We have to understand that this revolt of 1857 basically was a mutiny by the sepoys of the East India Company. And why did the sepoys rebel against the East India Company? It is because they had very less chance of growth. It is because the foreign butter or the foreign incentive that was provided to them if they traveled to further countries, that was suddenly snatched from them. And that is why they revolted. So there were various reasons, multiple reasons for the revolt of 1857, but these are the chief reasons for the revolt of 1857, but the immediate cause was the introduction of these Enfield rifles. That is how you will have to write your answers. That is it from our newspaper analysis edition. Thank you for being with us. Have a great day.